throughout your life, your financial life, there's a lot of different things that can happen. And at different ages, there's certain rules that apply to you that don't always apply. And like, for example, the first big one really is the age of 50. When you reach the age of 50, there's a few things that you can start doing that you didn't used to be able to do. For example, you could start making catch-up contributions to your different retirement accounts. Usually it's $1,000 or maybe a couple $1,000 more that you can save to your retirement accounts. In a lot of cases, it makes a lot of sense for people to do that. So when you reach 50, you can put in $1,000 annually to an individual retirement account. You could put $6,500 annually to your qualified employer-sponsored plan. So these are things that are really, really interesting to help you save on taxes and to have a better retirement. So the other thing is when you reach age 55, there's a few things that can happen. You might be able and eligible to take out penalty-free distributions from your qualified retirement plan at that time. There's also at the age of 59 and a half, there's different rules as well. But there are some certain ways that you can take money out at the age of 55, certain things that you can do that you couldn't do when you were 50 or 45 or 35. So 55 is a good milestone. Another one, again, is 59 and a half. When you turn 59 and a half, now you're eligible to take out penalty-free distributions from your IRAs. So how your account is managed, it's really important to know the liquidity and the timing of when you're going to be taking out money out of different accounts. So a lot of people, I had an interesting conversation actually, kind of a Twitter conversation with a gentleman who really, in my mind, has a kind of a one-way view of how investing should be done. And the view is basically simple. It's like you should maximize your return. You should keep your fees low. And those are really good things, obviously. But there's some real holes with that because there's a lot of evidence out there that shows that the order of withdrawals are important. Your tax management is important. There's a lot of what's called planning alpha that is actually normally higher improvement in returns than actually just having better performance from a value management style or a growth management style. So the actual benefits that you can get from planning alpha can be much, much higher. And Vanguard did a very respectable study on that to show various ways that planning can increase your overall retirement plan's wealth, your terminal wealth, more money to your heirs, more money to you. So I thought that was really interesting. So when you put together the portfolios, it's not just a matter of what's the best investment. That's important. It's very, very important. We spend the bulk of our time doing that and looking for those opportunities. But without the planning alpha, it's almost a moot point because if you don't get those elements right, your whole scenario is not optimal. So getting back to this age 59 and a half, you're now eligible for penalty-free withdrawals from IRAs, 457 plans, pension plans, qualified retirement plans. So depending on when you decide to retire, you may or may not need to take money out of your IRAs, your retirement accounts. Normally, when you look at the order of withdrawals, you'd be taking money out of different accounts, taxable accounts that you're managing the taxes. You take those out first, and maybe your Roth IRAs you take out later. So 59 and a half is an important date. Now, when you turn age 62, that's another age that's important. Now you can claim Social Security, depending on when you were born, but for most people, it's age 62. This is a big question. Sometimes it makes sense to take out Social Security when you're 62. Sometimes it makes sense to take out Social Security later. And the only way to really know, to get a good feel for that is to evaluate your alternatives, to take and look at what your Social Security would be at various ages and compare that to your plan and run simulations to see what would be better for you. So there's no quick answer to it. In general, though, I think that's important to know that the longer you wait, the higher the return is to you. So depending on your health and things like that, it could really affect whether or not you take Social Security early versus later. A lot of people that are retiring early, we have with clients that are retiring early, they tend to have these gap years where it makes sense for them to take money out of the portfolio and defer the Social Security and start taking it out later. For other people, it makes sense for them to start taking out that Social Security right away. It really just depends on the situation. So age 62 is another milestone. 65, 62 and a half, I should say. No, 62, sorry. Age 65. 65 is another important one because most people, you're eligible for Medicare. So healthcare is a huge cost for retirement, and a lot of financial plans don't have adequate healthcare contingencies put in the plan. I was doing some discount analysis and saying, okay, based on what the average person has during their retirement, what does it cost for healthcare? There are some studies out there. Fidelity does a lot of studies, but you're talking several $100,000, could be even more than that, depending on whether or not somebody has long-term care insurance, their own health, and their family dynamics. It could be a big number. And so having some knowability, having some protection there, does it impact things? And Medicare has so many different rules. I mean, some things are covered, some things aren't covered. One thing that's really important is that long-term care is not covered under. It's really not a long-term care plan. A lot of people think Medicare is going to take care of them. Medicaid has some rules, but you basically have to be broke in order to get Medicaid. So there's a lot of people that have a huge hole in the long-term care side when you're dealing with your portfolio. So you can have a great portfolio of several million dollars, and you wind up not being in a as good of a situation that you think you're going to be in. So it's really important. 65 is important. 66 through 67, this is kind of the scale in for reaching full retirement age for Social Security. Again, it's that Social Security analysis. When do I take it? 62, 66, 67? When do I take it? And of course, 70 is another year and age that's really important, kind of a milestone. You've already probably getting Social Security, but your Social Security benefits won't increase after you reach age 70. So there's another reason for many people to wait longer. Now with this new Secure Act, 72 is an important date because it used to be that your required minimum distributions was age 70 and a half out of an IRA, required to take money out of your IRAs or your qualified plans. Now with this new Secure Act, that is turned to age 72. So there's a lot of nuances with this new Secure Act. So it's really important that people look at their plan again. It does affect investment strategies. Look, I'm an investment guy. Financial planning for me has been learned out of a necessity because as we've been managing, I've been managing money for over 20 years, and more you start realizing clients have questions. You got to have the planning right in order to structure your portfolio right. So you can't just throw a portfolio and just do a cookie cutter stamp. No, too many people are doing that. And so it's really important to have these planning elements. So my friends that are pure investment people, they kind of like, oh, that planning stuff. Well, you know what? That planning stuff makes a huge difference. In fact, it can make a bigger difference than your stock selection and your asset allocation. Your things that that you spend all your time in. You got to get that planning right. Anyway, just a quick video on retirement planning milestones at different ages. Age 50, 55, 59 and a half, 62, 65, between 66, 67, 70, and now 72. These are all years and ages that you need to kind of think about things differently. If you're in a situation where you're near one of those dates, you should give us a call. We can run a plan for you and give you evaluate alternatives, assess your current situation. And that's another thing I want to mention is assessing the current situation is so important. There's a process of going through strengths and weaknesses where you say, okay, there's like 7 to 9 different ways to evaluate your current situation to say whether or not there's a strength there or a weakness, something to improve upon. And in our process, we go through each one of those to assess the situation. And that really helps you prioritize what's important and then say, okay, this is more important than that. Let's handle this. And each one of those maybe areas of improvement, you evaluate their alternatives, figure out which one is the best, most feasible for you, and then implement them and knock it out. That's the way to do it. And then go through an implementation where everybody knows who's doing what, when, and it really makes a huge difference in your financial life. Anyway, Louis Shams with WealthNet Investments. Give us a call if you need any help. Hope you guys are doing well, and I hope you got something out of this. Have a great day.